we raise by taxation 2.7. It's the same with the town. If the town had no revenue, last year $727,000, the tax rate of 2680 this year, if we didn't have that revenue, would be $32. So that's the other side of the equation. The budget is only one, or the warrant here is only one side of the equation. The other side of the equal sign, to pay all that, is the property taxes we all pay, and that revenue piece is additional. Does that help?
Would it be similar to say that the number on warrant item, article number 2 is $750,000 less than it would be if we had no revenue in the same operation?
Say that again.
Rich can clarify this for me.
No,
Oh, no, I want to come back to the research.
Say what you said again, I'm just helping you
On the
understand.
assessors, I understand we have a contract, but I'm looking at the numbers from last year, and we budgeted 20,000. So we kind of plugged in 20,000 for the last couple of years, and the actual last year was 15,000. So it seems to me that, yes, we're bound by the contract, but the contract also has several elements in it. And so the question to you is, in light of that, do you think an 8% cut there is something that's manageable?
I do think it's manageable.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dowling, I think the number in warrant article number 2, the operating budget, the way to think about this is, had the town no revenue from dog licenses and car registrations, then
It would be higher than this.
it would be higher than the number that you read.
So this budget is a net number of expense to revenue.
Correct. This is the expense side.
So how would it, where would it be higher? On what line item would it be higher? Or is it just spread equally? I'm just trying to understand if
I can help with this. When the ladies come over from the Department of Revenue Administration, they say, what's the taxable value of your property? It's townwide. What's your voter-approved operating budget? How much revenue do you have? That yields how much you have to raise, which is operating budget minus revenue. And that's applied to the tax rate. I'm not reaching anybody.
No, all right. Maybe I can just say it my way. You're asking for $1.6 million rounding off, okay, for a budget, okay? That's a net budget because actually you need $2.3 million less the $700,000.
No, it's a gross budget. It's gross. It's going to be less than 700. It's actually more like 9.
Okay.
What is it? What is it?
Well, you probably didn't.
I probably got it. I just didn't read it.
Right. If
That-
you look.
The amount that we're raising, that we're asking to raise is before any revenue, because we don't know what the revenue is. So if we get the same 727, so it'll be 1.6 less revenue. So it's really 900,000.
But you've already collected for the $1.6 million
No.
in tax. You haven't collected.
No, we won't collect the total amount until December next year.
Okay.
The discussion up here, if all of you have been able to hear, was the difference between or the question is this a net operating budget after taking into account for other revenues, is it a gross operating budget? And I think the answer is it's a gross operating budget. It's all the money that the town is authorized to spend this year. The amount to be raised by taxes is less that amount by the amount of other revenue. So
It may or may not come in.
Right, exactly.
All right, never mind. Let's go back to the 8%.
As an aside, whatever we decide at this meeting and in March, the impact of those decisions won't appear until December.
Yeah, okay. As long as they're...
okay, other comments on the discussion on the amendment, proposed amendment in front of us? Yeah.
Bruce Bills. I've served on committees such as the one over here that's working on this. I've done the you have to be pretty careful about how you approach this type of a cut. I mean, we could go down these things as we've done in past years, line by line, and cut different ones and leave some the same. And it takes hours. But there are problems with this, and I'll just do a couple. Streetlights. A year ago or 2 years ago, we voted to eliminate many of our streetlights. We cut our streetlight bill from $7,000 or $8,000 down to $5,000. It's only 8%. It's only $400. But that means my light bill's been going up lately, and I'm sure some of you folks have too. That means that the selectmen have still got to pay the light bill. So who are they going to rob from? Somebody who's already taken 8% away, and they've got to take that money to pay the light bill. Cemeteries. We still have 7 cemeteries to maintain. We pay our help $13 an hour to mow around thousands of stones and try to keep them respectable where people don't complain that they look shabby. This is the amount the town raises. The rest of it comes from income from the trust funds. And there again, it's going to cost, either we don't mow them, or it's going to cost as much next year or more than it did to maintain them this year. So there are line items in there, and you've discussed 2 or 3 of them, and you could discuss a bunch more. But just arbitrarily taking 8% away and making the selectmen rob from Peter to pay Paul on some of them that they're going to have to pay, I don't think is the right way to do it.
He's over. Well, I know. I manage my health budget. Yeah, I'm sure it's more than 8% each year that climbs on me. Yeah. So, you have to deal with the amount of money you do have to work with. And you have to make changes. Just like everybody else has to make changes. It's nothing different. I think we go for it. We go with it. Bob.
Barbara Baker, is it my understanding that the selectmen, we broke this down to, like Bruce said, to cut it back 8%, but it's my understanding that the selectmen can break this down in any way they want. It doesn't have to be cemeteries. They would work on the budget as a whole and break it down how they see fit.
That's exactly right. And so what was said over there means that we could cut some lines 8%, other lines like the municipal insurance, we don't decide what that is. We're told what that is. So if we can't cut that at all, then we cut another line 12%. And we have to figure it out that way.
But, we as households also have certain items that we have to pay, like taxes, and or any other thing, and we're robbing to pay Paul, and we're trying to figure out how we can save.
Right.
As
The
well.
point here is an 8% overall cut line by line will not happen that way. Because there are some lines that can't be cut because we're told what they are. They just are that amount. So that, yes, the selectmen do have the legal authority to figure, it's the total at the bottom we need to worry about the most legally. We want to spend line by line for clarity and transparency for the people who pay attention. But the fact is, to take 8% out of the general operating budget, it will be different percentages from different areas to get to that 8% on the bottom line.
Tom?
Yeah, Tom now again. As Rich Malenko mentioned, on the reevaluation of the property, it was only $15,000, you had 20, so there's $5,000 there to help with the lighting. And the interest on TAN was $700 we paid, and there's $3,000 in there, and you got a little bit more money there to mow cemeteries. I think the reality is, and I'm not speaking for everybody in the room, but I'm on a fixed income, so when prices go up, I need to look other places to not spend as much or spend less, or eat in a different restaurant versus my restaurant and whatever. So, all we're asking is that the town officials do the same thing. And no one wants to reduce the budget, but I only have so much money, and I don't know about y'all, but, it's limited, it's just there. So, we're asking the town to go back and look at how they should disperse the $1.4 million or $1.477 million and just make it happen. And maybe it's a year, maybe it's 2 years until everybody's a little healthier and we're more willing to spend. But right now, I think this is realistic. I think, as was mentioned, that there's already some extra in the budget to cover for what may or may not come, like the interest and the reevaluation of the properties. I mean, I've built budgets running companies, and you always put a little bit in there for rainy day stuff. So there's room in the budget. It won't be easy, but I think that's what we need as citizens. I'll stop there.
Mike?
So one of the things that happened this year that kind of drove the bus a little bit was the last week of June, first week of July, we had some rain. A lot of people maybe remember that or don't, but regardless, it was bad enough, the damage was great enough that we were declared a federal disaster area. And it doesn't look like we're going to get a whole lot of money for our troubles, unfortunately. So far, we requested over $500,000, and so far it looks like we're looking at $69,000, and we're hoping to get more. There's still 2 cases open, but we don't know. But long story short, the DOT budget went over $50,000. Okay? So halfway through the year, we were already in trouble, and where did we get that money? We got it from the extra tan money, we got it from this, we got it from that, because that's what we have to do. Not to mention the fact that DRA likes to, don't require us to, but likes to have some money in there for events like that. So these things do happen from time to time. There is those moments when we have to dip into other places to make it work, as we all do. I know everybody likes to liken this to their home budget, so we all end up with those as well.
Ann?
I'd like to make a motion to move the question.
Second.
The motion has been made to move the question, which means to end debate on the amendment. If we move to end debate on the amendment before, the motion before, then I will take a vote on the amendment. After we vote on the amendment, I will reopen discussion on the amended or not Article 2. So all in favor of moving the question, ending debate on the motion before us, please say aye.
Point of order, there should be some discussion on that motion.
Okay, I will accept that point of order, that there should be discussion on the motion to move the question.
It's not on the motion to move the question, it's the motion to vote on well, maybe the motion to move the question, but it's to vote on whether you accept the amended, the motion that's on the floor to amend it to 4,800, whatever the number was. That's what there still needs to be discussion on. And I would suggest that, an 8%, and I'll come to Bruce's point about, doing the meat axe approach where you do 8% and you let the selection sort it out. And I will suggest that typically the way we've done this since I've lived here for the last 14 years is you eventually have to go through line by line by line. There are specific numbers in the amended, in the motion to amend, and we've done a couple of those. We've looked at minor ones actually, the TAN, we've looked at the assessor's number, and my suggestion is before we, jump into saying let's cut it by 8%, that we do a sensible thing and we just go down line by line and we ask the questions.
Okay, I'd like the floor, please. I'd like the floor, please. I have a proposal to move the question. It's been seconded. I explained how this procedure works. After a vote on whether or not to move the question, we will take a vote on the amendment. Then Article 2 will be opened up again to discussion. Either it has been amended or it is the original article. One way or the other, the article will still be before us for discussion. I'm calling for a vote to move the question. Those in favor of moving the question to end debate on the amendment that is before us, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed to ending debate on the amendment before us, please say nay. Okay, I declare that the discussion is ended on the amendment before us. I'm going to ask for a vote on the amendment. And I will read the amendment again because I am required to.
Not because he wants you.
Can we give you a pass?
Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session for the purpose set therein, totaling $1,477,784. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $1,634,348, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Alstead or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40, 13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Is there anyone in the room that would like me to read down that list of numbers again? Okay, I will not. All in favor of adopting the amendment as read, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? No. I will declare that a yea vote. Okay. Mark.
So, if this works out with the yeas, we're going to have another public hearing. And we're going to try to discuss where the cuts are going to come and what's going to happen next. And I would hope that everyone would do their neighbors the courtesy of showing up for that meeting as well.
Okay, I am now opening up discussion on the amended Article 2. That means Article 2 is still subject to further amendments, further discussion. So that's where we're at. Michael?
Again, like Roger keeps out, the agenda that the moderator read to us, when this article was amended, the proposal for the amendment was read, has already been read, so there's no need to hash that out, given that we do know that the selection has the authority to mix and match. That's why they have the authority. So we have the agenda, it's already been presented. I don't think there's anything more you need to do to drag this out. If you want more hearings, you want to have a hearing, this is the place.
Sir?
Yeah, been paying taxes for a year, and my specific question is really to the committee, who stood up and almost answered it. This RSA 4013. First question, will there be another meeting, do you anticipate one, where this will be discussed again? Will you act on this? You haven't said if you have, you may hold, will you hold another meeting should this amendment go through?
Yes.
Different question. I can help with this. The statutory language allows the town, if it gets in a tight spot, to petition the court for another meeting just like this.
Will you?
No. We have no reason to at this point. If we don't emerge from this meeting with a warrant that we can put on the ballot, because we're too divided or too contentious or the power goes out, then maybe.
Point of order, Peter.
Yeah.
The language in this Article 2, the section you're referring to starts, should this article be defeated, then, so that the special meeting possibility only happens if the budget is defeated in March.
Which doesn't include amended is not defeated.
What we're doing today is we're creating the document we will vote on in March. If it's defeated in March,
Then you'll have.
then
Thank you. This happens after the vote.
Right.
So I,
Yeah. Thank you. The other comment I'd like to make is, I know some of the people in the room have been discussing this. I think everybody in the room is because they want to reduce on
Can you
tax
speak up, please?
somehow.
Speak up.
We all want to reduce our taxes, that's why we're here. And the proposal on the floor, the amendment, is an 8% line item. My engineering background makes me question whether it ought to be 7.6 or 8.4%. And I don't want to be a lemming and run off the cliff, but an 8% seems logical as a place to start, and I applaud the work you've done. It seems to me we ought to, and I don't have any facts other than what's verbally been presented, whether it should be 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9%. I don't know that. And I don't know how you do that in today's setting. It's a comment, and I would like to see either facts or figures, or what are the effects of, or what happened at 7%, and I don't know how you do that in this meeting, but I'm concerned that we're voting on a number that so far is really just a number proposed.
If it would be any help, we can go down this list, line by line, and it is still open to be amended on any line item.
Just for reference purposes, the past 5 years' budgets, this portion of what we're talking about, have gone up. 5 years have gone up on average 2%. Okay? What happened is more complex. A lot of the people who were in the past meetings have heard about the complexity of it. But in 5 years, this budget's gone up 10. This room now looks like they want to knock it back 8, putting it back 4.5 years ago. As just for thought, that's all I'm saying.
You're right. While we're here.
Quiet, please.
Patriot Gillette, Alstead Center Road. This is pretty amazing that this This concern has been sitting with me the whole time about talking about cutting budgets. I have quite a bit of experience making budgets, and they grow quickly. And I understand we all are pinching pennies as best we can. I'm really concerned about the people involved. And there are a lot of people in our town that work very hard to make our town happen, and I wouldn't want to see their dinner plates be less full because we are concerned about not having extracurricular funds in our families or the spending that we're used to having. So that's just a concern about it. I think it's really important to think about the people involved.
Yeah.
So, Mayor, I'd like to move the question. I think that short of going through line items, there isn't a whole lot of, other than rhetoric and supposition to come up. So if we're going to do this eventually, let's do it now.
Second. They moved and seconded that we move the question. Again, this is a vote on whether to end discussion of the amended Article 2. All in favor of ending discussion on the amended Article 2, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
hey,
Declare those a yea vote. Article 2 will go on the ballot as read. Does anyone need me to read it again?
I have a question.
Yeah?
On the article, on the ballot, are all the line items listed, or is it just the question?
Just one question.
Right, so all those different line items are not on the ballot when we
No.
vote. So that gives the latitude to move, to make those line items what the selectmen or the departments need. Okay.
and wait a minute.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this. I think it's a great discussion. What Mike was trying to say a few minutes ago is that our plan, which we just made, is to make sure that these reallocations don't happen in a vacuum with just 3 selectmen and the secretary of the room. So you will be getting more postcards for your refrigerator come March, where we start to try to deconstruct this and then put it back together in a way that makes sense to as many people as we can get into the room. Those will be public hearings, which means you don't have the authority to vote, but you do have the authority to speak and convince.
Barbara, do you have a question?
Well, I just have a question. At some point down the line, can this figure change by your meetings? No. Once it's, okay.
No, it can get either larger or smaller.
Okay, we have ended discussion on Article 2. We are on to Article 3. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be placed in the Highway Capital Reserve Fund established 1988. Majority vote required, recommended by the Board of Selectmen. This appropriation is in addition to warrant Article number 2, the operating budget. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? A second? Yeah. Okay, moved and seconded that Article 3 be placed on the ballot as read. Do I have discussion?
Yes, RD needs help. I move to amend this article to read 0. And I know we have 7 of them. I don't know if we can do it all at once, or we're going to move each one.
Each one is separate. It was requested by, at the budget hearing by the voters present that these be broken out into separate articles.
Fine, because I'm not for all. So I move to amend this article.
Okay, moved and seconded to amend Article 3 to the sum of $0. Do I have discussion on the amendment?
I'd like to speak just about what capital reserve is meant to do in case there's somebody here who doesn't know that. Capital reserve funds now, we have animal, bridges, fire, cemetery, fire, highway, library, new town hall, parks and rec, police department. Those are the capital reserve funds that exist now in those amounts for a total of $864,000. Capital reserve accounts were created to keep taxes year to year as level as possible. If we did not have those accounts, and we never put any money in them, every time we needed a fire truck, if we didn't buy a fire truck the year before for $500,000, we would have the next year the problem we just lived through with the budget going up $500,000 all at once. So the point of the intention of the capital reserve funds is to put money away every year the same amount. And then when you need to buy some expensive piece of capital equipment, you take the money out of the capital reserve fund and put the same amount as you did the year and the year and the year before into capital reserve. The real number in Alstead to maintain the level of capital equipment that we own today, and there are various opinions about whether we should own all of that or not, I recognize that, to replace all that equipment, which we probably won't, but if we were going to replace all the equipment we have today on its 25-year cycle or its 30-year cycle for fire trucks and the little highway trucks are 5-year cycles, we would need to put in capital reserve every year $380,000. We've never done it. Last year we put in $215,000, and the way it works in Alstead is we have those numbers, that amount of money riding in the accounts to take the sting out of buying an expensive new piece of equipment. That's the intention. For it to work, we have always done that every year. It doesn't mean we always have to. So I just wanted to put that context around the conversation we're having now about the capital reserve funds. This is putting money by new taxation into savings accounts to be used later so it won't have to be raised later and have the tax bills be doing this forever, which is what they did before capital reserve became a process that was available.
Okay, discussion on the amendment to Article 3. Rich?
Yeah, I was on the planning board for a number of years, and when we first moved here, we
suffered from the fact that, basically the philosophy for a lot of years before that was not to put anything in the capital reserve fund. So the trick is to strike some reasonable balance. What Matt, I think, left out is there's a capital budget plan for each one of these reserve funds. So perhaps as we go through them, we might take a look at what's in the reserve fund and then have at least some information on what we think the anticipated